You're listening to the Journey Podcast. How can decoding your body's narrative transform your health? Stay tuned to find out more. Hi, I'm Petra Brunbauer, and with decades of experience with sadness, pain, anxiety, and stress, I finally figured out how to leave all that behind. And this podcast shows you how to break free permanently so you can reclaim your sanity and find the self-esteem and energy to go after the life you desire. With real talk about mental health, holistic healing, and the tough journey of coming out the other end. This is the Journey Podcast. Welcome to today's episode. In this episode, we delve into an innovative approach to holistic healing that bridges the gap between physical and emotional well-being. Our guest shares insights from her journey of overcoming trauma and synthesizing various healing modalities into a powerful transformational method. Claudia Domancie is a mom of two living in Melbourne, Australia, and has been helping clients transform their mind, body, and life for over 20 years. She loves hiking in nature with her husband and boys, and challenging her body physically is always exciting. Growing up in a dangerous and violent place called Johannesburg, South Africa, Claudia experienced trauma and suffered PTSD, depression, and anxiety for many years. She made it her mission to heal and recover, and through a lot of courses and practices, she was able to totally reset her mind, body, and life. Claudia is a master NLP practitioner, life coach, diploma-qualified clinical Pilates instructor, reflexologist, Reiki practitioner, yoga teacher, and physical therapist, and has synthesized these methodologies into a powerful transformational method called the Body Story Method. The Body Story Method helps mindset coaches, Pilates and yoga instructors, psychologists, and body workers to read their clients in an instant to uncover the root cause of how clients are feeling physically and emotionally. Claudia runs online and in-person training to help all change workers support their clients at a much deeper level to reduce chances of their emotional or physical pain recurring by resetting the nervous system, mind, and body through the powerful Body Story Method processes. Her mission is to help thousands of people to awaken the life and body they've been longing for. Let's meet Claudia Domancie. Hi, Claudia. It's so great to have you on the podcast today. I've been looking forward to getting to chat with you because the Body Story Method has me intrigued and I'd love to know more about it. So welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited to tell you more and share everything. And I really look forward to chatting to you over this podcast.
Amazing. Yeah, it's my absolute pleasure. And I have to say, this is something a little bit different that I have not come across before. And so I think this will be a wonderful topic for our listeners. Now, for starters, would you like to share a little bit about yourself and your own story, just to give us a bit of insight into how you came to developing this method and what was sort of the run-up to your experiences before you developed that?
Oh, it's a great question. I am originally from South Africa. And when I was born, I didn't crawl as a baby, which meant I didn't get the primal reflexes that are needed to be having the mind-body coordination. So that means I was terrible at sport. I didn't focus when I was in class. I felt like I had a body that just didn't work like everybody else's. So when I stood up and walked at the age of 4, there were doctors that had said, yeah, there's nothing wrong with her. She's just lazy. And this label had followed me throughout my childhood. So when my parents signed me up for like tennis coaching and swimming lessons and any kind of thing that needed my body to be working, I sucked. I was horrible. And people just kept saying, well, she's not trying. She's just lazy and just don't bother with her. And I then just eventually was going to give up on my body until I found Pilates. A friend of mine was learning how to teach Pilates, and she did a math class with me. And it was like a light bulb just like lit up inside of me. I had found this, like my head found my body. I found a way of using my body in a whole new way. And I was just so lit up from within that I needed more. So I went to the trainer and I wanted to not just do more Pilates. I decided I need to be a trainer because there will be other people I need help to feel this that I feel. And when I went to her, she realized just how bad I was. And she didn't want me to do the course. She said, no, my name's at stake. Now, this is 24 years ago. So when she told me that, I negotiated and I said, well, what needs to be there for me to do this course? And she asked me to do 6 hours of training. This was grueling training every day for about 3 to 6 months. And that included Qigong, yoga, Pilates, and gyrotonics, and a whole bunch of other things. And then I eventually did the 600-hour practical training. Back then, it was very different because they wanted you to be a dancer or an athlete or someone that was really at the top of their field. So things have changed since then. And then because I was in a really dangerous, violent place, like in Johannesburg, there's a lot of crime there. So there's violence on the streets everywhere you go. And I didn't feel safe in my environment. I didn't feel safe in my body. And I had a whole bunch of PTSD, anxiety, depression, and I used to have panic attacks that just, I got so stuck and I couldn't move. And we've eventually got to immigrate. And I thought, oh, okay, well, all is well now. And the thing that happened, I had done a few courses to try and help myself, but I had seen psychologists for a few years. Nothing really helped me because when there was a small stress in Australia, because we had immigrated to Australia, my body still responded as if I was in South Africa. So I'd have those trembling responses, the panic attacks over something that just wasn't even a big thing. And so I dedicated so many years into learning more about myself, how to heal myself, and what I needed to do. And that all included things like reflexology, Reiki, NLP, yoga, and I'm also a PT, and obviously Pilates. And through all these methods, I found a new sense of me. It was like my nervous system had finally settled and my mind met my body, met my energy, and just learned how to be calm. And at that time, I was still helping clients, but I learned a whole new way of helping them once I was able to help myself heal. And we're in Melbourne, which is the most locked down city in the world. So for 2 years, we had like so many lockdowns. So I was teaching online classes about 8 hours a day, and people were either muted or their camera wasn't placed right. And they wouldn't tell me exactly how they were feeling because their family's around or they're in a group class and they don't want to be talking about what's going on. So everyone was just fine. And I then had to start to draw on all my training. Just physical movement wasn't going to be good enough in this situation where everybody is traumatized and everyone's under stress. Everyone wants to be somewhere where they're not, that they don't want to be where they currently are. And because of that, I started to read the body in a whole new way. So I drew on my experience as a reflexologist to look at their feet, and because I couldn't see the rest of their body some of the times, I'd look at their feet and go, how's your shoulder feeling today? And they'd be like, how do you know? That's weird. And I drew on my knowledge that I had learned from all the osteos and chiros and alignment professionals that I've worked with, especially when clients have injuries. So I used the concepts of how things are interlinked. I also started to draw on my experience as a yoga teacher with where chakras are in the body and what emotions are related to that, and how these impact your body when you have stuck emotions and when you're suppressing things or pushing things aside. And then I also started to incorporate the methods of NLP, which is like life coaching, and there's a lot of mindset shifts and beliefs that we help people with. And through communicating, through breath work, through just pure words and ways of helping people in a session, they didn't even realize they were busy transforming, but I could see the transformation. A lot of times they'd be crying and they'd be like, I'm not even sad right now, but I feel so much better. So that's when Body Story was born. And I realized I was teaching really differently, and not just with helping people to shift their emotions. I was helping them to shift their beliefs, and injuries were not taking so long to be healed. So because I was getting to the root cause of the problem and not just focusing on what people are saying consciously and what they're consciously aware of, I was actually able to see what the body is saying and when there's a shift that's occurred. So that's basically how I'm now able to help trainers like Pilates and yoga teachers, mindset coaches, psychologists, and counselors to be able to help their clients in a new way, where they literally just look at their client's body and they can see what's happening at a subconscious level. They can see what emotions are being stored or stuck. If someone's holding themselves back, if someone's leaning away from feeling something, or they're afraid of something to come, this shows up in all their body movement patterns. And that's the beauty of the Body Story method. So that's my story.
Amazing. Thank you for sharing that with us. And what a story also as a child to experience this kind of adversity and the labels that were happening. And I'm so glad that that didn't hold you back from moving forward in all the things that you were passionate about, and taking on the Pilates challenge and really saying, no, I want this. I want to move forward with that. Wow. So inspirational. You know, I find a lot that when I speak to individuals who've had a lot of trauma in their lives, that they often tell me they don't know what their body is doing. So they live in their heads and they tell me, oh, I didn't even know I had a body. So when someone asks me like, how's your toe feeling or how's your elbow feeling? I had no idea that was even there. So this disconnect that you were talking about, I think it happens a lot. It happens a lot with stress, happens a lot with trauma. And if you can help reconnect with your method, the parts of us that need to communicate, I can definitely see how that leads to faster healing, to a different sense in your body, a different sense about who you are and how you show up in the world. So that sounds amazing. Now, I'm very curious when you say that by looking at the body movement patterns, we can tell those things. I find that curious. And so I'm sitting up very straight in my chair and going like, oh goodness, what is she seeing about me right now? So what are some of the things that you notice in your classes? And I mean that you probably also noticed during COVID. What happens to people when they're feeling stressed, when they are experiencing trauma, as they did probably around the lockdown times? What are you noticing then in their movement patterns?
Yeah. So when someone's stressed, you can see it in their breath. You can hear it in their voice. So generally they would have a very shallow breath. if they're feeling really stressed, generally they are disconnected to what's going on in their body. So when I was asking clients, how's your body feeling today? I always got the same answer of fine. And then they started moving and they'd tell me, oh, yeah, I forgot to tell you I fell down and I hurt my knee or I sprained my ankle. And there was always this other thing that would just surface in the class. And I felt like I was playing catch up. And it's through reading the body, like knees are connected to surrender. So if someone's having a lot of knee pain, you might notice that they're buckling at their knees, or they've got knee pain, or they might be struggling with a step that they need to take in life and they feel really stuck. There's parts of the body that signify what is going on with somebody. I had a client come in and she said to me, I'm ready for a challenge. And she's been for a few sessions and I was like, okay, cool. Let's see what your body does. And the way that her body was standing, it's like a metaphor. With most people, you'll see particular body positions. And this is what I share in the training, where she was leaning slightly to one side. I could actually see that there was more pressure on one foot compared to the other. And I asked her, what are you leaning away from feeling? And she burst into tears. And it was this realization of there was an anniversary that was really upsetting her for the next, like the day that was to come. And she's the type of person that'll just brush things aside and I'm fine and just push through the pain. And I think it was her way of saying, I need to not feel today, when she said, I need this challenge. And if we had done that, she would have left a total mess. She would have gone home and either been in pain, her body would have made her stop in some way. And we did a really gentle session of awakening certain sensations in her body, like calm, like gratitude, using breath in a way that you can feel these things that you're hoping for your clients to feel. And the exercises, like we did a grounding workout, which helped her with the base chakra to feel safe in her environment so that she could open up, surrender, and be more open to the uncomfortable feelings that might come. And through doing that, she wasn't suppressing the emotions, which would then show up as pain at another stage. She was able to move through it, like through this discomfort, in a different way and be able to honor how she was feeling, but not be stuck. So, yeah.
That's fascinating. And all the things that you can tell just by looking at how someone is moving or their posture. Oh, I find this fascinating.
And you can see it in an instant. Like the second you see someone, before they even talk, that's the beauty of it, because that's like so many people are relying on what people are aware of and they're not. They don't really know, like you said. Yeah. So it's a really quick thing.
Wow. And so take us through the body story method a little bit more in detail. We've heard we're looking at movement, we're looking at posture, you're talking about the chakras, you mentioned breath work, possibly some yoga. So how does the body story method come together when you're working with clients?
The body story method, it depends whether you are, because I'm also a life coach and a mindset coach. So if you're a mindset coach, it comes together in a way that you're working on what the body is saying at a subconscious level. You're able to weave in seamlessly anything else that you notice in their body. And I teach you how to notice when a change has occurred. Because in coaching sessions, even in movement sessions, people will go, I'm feeling great. Yeah, feel awesome. But then they'll come back the next session and the problem has occurred again. And that's because they haven't reset the nervous system. So there's signals in the body that you can see where there's actually been a shift that's occurred. In the movement industry, like for Pilates and yoga teachers, there's such a boom of huge classes nowadays, which is great, but also not great in some aspects. Some people are getting injured. Some instructors, they don't feel equipped enough to be teaching large groups, or they don't feel like they're able to cater to every person's needs. And with the body story method, you can see someone walk in and you'll know exactly when you need to be there for that person. You'll know, that knee needs some help. Or that shoulder, that is going to be linking to the opposite side on the foot, for example. And you'll be able to know what cues and prompts to give, when to be at somebody to give hands-on, and also what modifications may be needed before anybody starts moving, without having to look at the paperwork and have the pre-planned workout, because that doesn't always work. That's based on their last session, or it's based on whatever the franchise is giving. So yeah, it plays out in the way that you can become a much more efficient and effective trainer or coach, and know exactly what you need to be incorporating by looking at what the body is telling you. And also, like, when you go for a massage, and sometimes there's those masseuses that just, they don't know what they do, and they'll go on the same knot over and over, and it's like, please, can you just stop? Same thing with coaching and instructors. Like, if you give the same exercise or you're working on the same thing too much, it's going to have negative impacts, and totally the opposite impact. So with the body story method, you're able to tell when you've gone enough or when you haven't gone enough, and whether you need to continue, or if it's going to be a long-lasting change, or you need to try and reinforce what you did the next time you see your client.
That is super interesting, because there is sort of this, I find even in yoga, this thought that, you just need to keep practicing so you become more efficient at it, or you can hold a pose longer or better. And I feel like that sometimes when I overdo it, I feel physically ill. It actually generates a kind of an almost like an illness in my stomach. It makes me feel queasy. So I understand what you're saying there. You can definitely maybe even overload the nervous system by doing something too many times, too much, and then it becomes unhelpful. Yeah, that is fascinating that you say that. Now, I take it that the body story method works online as well, because you did start noticing things during the lockdown. So how is that when you, for example, you're a yoga teacher, but you teach only online because your clients are sort of all over the world? Does that still work in the sense that you can still observe?
Yes, definitely. So the way that they'll be standing, you'll be able to see, even just when they're talking and saying hello, like, you'll be able to notice. And by noticing these things, when they start to move, you'll see one side might switch off. One side will be really wobbly. But so many people feel like that's a problem side, when it's actually the side that actually needs support. It's the side that's not working in some arenas. But sometimes if that side's feeling the pain, it's the side that's been working and overworking, and the only side that's been doing stuff. So yes, it certainly helps, especially in yoga, because there's so many, it's like a constant flow, and you need to be ready with predicting where this person's going to go, when they're going to start to feel either discomfort or disconnection. And if they're going to be overbalancing, then you'll be able to go, okay, now this side, this is what's going to be happening. Or start on the really wobbly side, and then the rest all seems easy.
Yeah, that's some powerful things that you're talking about. And so when we work, for example, with the body story method, I mean, there are a lot of physical things, as you said, that the people will be observing. How does this play out in the mental emotional space for people? You mentioned that some of your clients, they burst out into tears. So obviously there also is a big component in the mental emotional space. How does the body story method come into play there?
When people are feeling emotions like that, if an instructor picks this up, it doesn't mean that they need to be helping them and become a psychologist, because there's a lot of talk therapy that then starts happening. It's through whatever skill they're currently using. So the body will affect the emotions when you're using it correctly. So when you're able to ignite the right exercises, because that's something that I offer in the 4-day training, you get these workouts. I've got a workout called Frequency 528. And this is a chakra workout. So when you're giving them particular movements or breath or cues and words, that's going to be impacting their emotions. Same with coaching. So when you're helping someone in the mindset space, you can see if they are sitting in a particular way, or even if if someone's lacking direction in life, but they just come in and they say, I'm overwhelmed and I'm just not reaching goals and I don't know why. A lot of coaches will come and they break down the list. They give them a big to-do list, which seems easier, but it actually sets them up for more overwhelm. What this person actually needed was a focal point, some step-by-step small little actions, and learning to be comfortable in their body, finding some balance in life. So when you notice someone that is lacking direction in life, a lot of times they lack spatial awareness. They may bump into things. Or when they walk in, they may be walking with one leg crossing over the other. They're not drunk. It's not like something that's so obvious. It's a really subtle thing that happens. And you can notice these things, like one leg may be swinging out, circling out. And the stride of the legs aren't necessarily both straight. One circles out more than the other. And that particular leg is then seeking for something. It's either seeking for confidence or it's seeking for direction. And there's these meanings that I share with the body story method where you get a whole encyclopedia of what each thing means when you see these movement patterns. When someone tilts their head one way, it either shows that they're seeking direction or they're seeking how they feel. And so many people, they think that that's just how they end up having their head tilted. There's some tightness that would occur on one side, but that also impacts the emotions. It also impacts the energetic levels too. So it's all interconnected. And through either helping people, if you're a healer, you can start to use all these body story method techniques and processes. Like it's called primal scanning technique, the first part. And this just helps you to know exactly, this is what I need in my toolkit. And this is where I will go with this person. Yeah.
Wow. Sounds like a fantastic part that we can add to our toolkit, both as people who need the healing and also as teachers or coaches that can provide this to other people. And I find it sometimes difficult, especially when we have experienced deep trauma, to keep talking about it because it seems like we're re-traumatizing a lot at that point. I like the idea of actually moving more into that physical space and working on that connection. It feels like at that point, we're actually taking little action steps rather than re-traumatizing. So that to me sounds like a wonderful approach. Now, you also have a podcast called The Body Story Method. And so people can go there and listen to some of the things maybe that we've talked about and listen to some of the advice that you have in regards to the body story method. Can people find you sort of in all the usual podcast places, Apple, Spotify, website, things like that? Perfect.
Yes, certainly.
Okay. And tell us a little bit about how our listeners could work with you if they've been inspired by this episode and maybe they want to know more, maybe they want to train in this method. How
Yeah.
can they work with you? What do you have available?
Oh, fantastic. I have got a free body story reading for every listener. So all they need to do is click on the link. It'll be in the captions. And then they also get access to the free training, which is a 2.5 hour pre-recorded training where they can start to know what is going on with people around them, what's going on with people, like with themselves too. And put a whole, it's like getting Polaroid glasses. You get these Polaroids on and you're going to never be able to look at the world the same way again. So it's going to be a fantastic type of training that's free currently. It's not going to be free for too many people or for too long. So there is a limit to it. So yeah, I look forward to sharing this. And then once they've looked through this, or if they want to know even more and dive into how to do all of this, there is the 4-day training, which is the advanced certification. They can be certified in this method and they will be able to use the physical, emotional, and energetic world in their practice with whoever they work with and know exactly where to go with whatever client they're working with, communicate better. And it is offered online and in person. So there are the dates on the website. And there is also an early bird discount that they'll be able to see if that is the period during when they look at this.
Amazing. And we, of course, will be linking to all of your offerings in the show notes as well. So
Yeah.
I encourage listeners to have a look there for the freebie that they can dip their toes into the body story method, find out if it's something that they're interested in. And of course, if it is something they're excited about, they can also do some more training on that. And I have a feeling that you're just spot on when you say you can't really unsee things after. I think once you start diving into that, you're going to start noticing things probably about yourself as well.
Yeah.
How you move and maybe what your body is trying to tell you at certain times. So that sounds really interesting. Now, I
Yeah.
just want to thank you so much for coming on today and talking to us about this method. I find this very fascinating, and I think this could be a wonderful tool that we can all add to our healing toolkit, as you mentioned. So thank you for your time today. Thank you for sharing this wisdom with us. And I've been truly grateful that you came and spoke to us today. Thank you so much, Claudia.
Oh, thank you, Pietra. It's been wonderful to be on your podcast. Thank you.
Yeah, I can't wait to get this out to the world and share this method with many, many of our listeners. Thank you so much, Claudia, and take care.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to listen in. If you enjoy the Journey podcast, please support us by subscribing, sharing on social media, and leaving us a review. We appreciate you. And you can find more of The Journey on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and our website, thejourney.com. Sending you love and courage, and see you next time.